I'm not going to show you very many pretty pictures. This is actually the only one. And it's Shanghai, which is the largest wreck in the Baltic Sea, about 300 meters long. And we did a survey covering that this year because they want to take all the oil out of the ship now, this summer, and they've started working on it. So just to give you one pretty picture. So we are using a skeleton for a couple of reasons, and the two major reasons that we're using it is that we will use this for line planning, and what this is more about, the online analysis of the sound speed profiles. But I've taken both things into this presentation as it might give you some ideas of what to do with the skeleton, because previously when doing a survey, everybody had to do cross lines in order to verify their error budget. And these days a lot of people tend to say, no, it's not necessary with cross lines anymore, but we have figured that it's a very good idea to do cross lines in order to make a posteriori error estimation. So, line planning. Why do we do a line planning the way that we do is because we want more efficient surveys. We don't want too much overlap. And that comes down to our Swedish colleagues. I know Johnny was around here somewhere. No. And they came up with a suggestion that we should come up with some software to do the optimal line spacing. And my very good colleague, Johnny, sat down and he invented some software where we can actually plan the survey lines in order not to have too much overlap between the individual survey lines. The online analysis, yeah, you can read it for yourself. We're taking the crossings from the cross lines and the major survey lines and using this small bit to calculate the sound speed error on that specific spot. And we do have the general suggestion that we shouldn't have the cross lines further apart than 1,000 meters. So that gives us an estimation for every 1,000 meters in a general survey. So the skeleton. We do tend to, when we are planning the survey lines, to run both the cross lines and some border lines. You'll see down at the bottom there, you've got a border line which is surrounding the survey area and on the top as well. And this is just to make the math work easier for Jørgen when he is doing the calculations of line spacing. Sorry. So, we'll use the skeleton to define the polygon, and we'll just draw a polygon around the area of interest using the border lines and the cross lines, and then insert the line direction, which is done graphically, and the survey angle at which we'll accept the soundings. So that's plus minus 60 degrees. And then the transducer depth related to the geoid or whatever reference that you choose. But in Denmark, with inside the score, it's always the geoidal model that we use for it. And as you'll see here, you got some part up here where we got a very narrow line spacing in the middle of the survey. If you go compare it with this part and up here. And that's because our general survey direction is this direction, and we got some shallow part up here. So what we'll do is that we'll divide it into 3 parts. So now we got 3 polygons, and we got this small area which is actually, we could have divided into only two, showing this part over here and this one, but I've divided into three. And then I've done a calculation on this part and on the other part, and oh, sorry. Where was in order to give the optimal line spacing. And having done that, or the reason that we did it was that Jørgen sat down and did analyze one of our previous surveys. It was actually one of my surveys. And what he figured was that the overlap of the survey lines was in the order of 62%. And that is waste of taxpayers' money and our survey time. So if we could optimize that, it would be a benefit to everybody. So, the online analysis of the sound speed profile. I'll take you to the equations. It's pretty easy, going from upper left and coming down here, continuing on the next page. And if you've got any questions concerning these, please forward them to Jørgen. He'll be more than happy to explain them to you, or look it up in the International Hydrographic Review, volume 4 from 2010. There's a paper about it. So, the skeleton is again used. Now we don't use the borderlines anymore, and it's used for the basis of calculating the crossings. This is actually two general survey lines in this direction and all the cross lines. So this will give us calculation, two calculations in this part, and so on all the way up. And if we have to apply a new sound speed profile, it's not like in the PDS 2000. It's very easy using IVA software. I would recommend that if you want to reprocess your data, because it's pretty fast. And we just take the error bits and transfer them to the clean files, as we need clean files in order to do this calculation. So that's straightforward and very easy to add a new profile and export it again to the format that we use, because that's the internal format, which is, somebody might know it, FAU format, which was invented also by Jørgen back in, I think it was 91. So, firing up this algorithm, it'll give us a printout of the differences on the crossings. And if you look over here, I've highlighted it in red, you'll see the differences on the individual crossings. It's not, the rest of the figures in this table, don't pay attention to them, because this survey was actually carried out using GTPS and time corrections. So during the survey, the tide is not applied, which make these figures become rather large, on both sides of those figures over here are related to this line, and the other figures over here are related to an index number which is placed here. Everybody is ordered in index numbers in Jørgen's program, so it's pretty easy to look up and see where we have the bigger errors. But actually Jørgen, he did, is it coming? So, comes up with a graphical presentation as well. I don't know if you can see the figures down in the back, but if you look at it, you can see it's pretty good correlation with what it should be up in this end, and not as good down here, but that's because this line is actually a part of a complete line, which the rest of it is down here. And the rest of the line will show that it'll be pretty close to the real sound speed, which was measured down here and up here. And what happens in the middle here? You can see it's changing from minus to plus. And that's the reason, or the reason for that is that this area up in this survey have a very deep slope here. So actually, we should have measured a profile up here. And who to blame for it? That's Richard, he's sitting down there. But you'll see, he did do his job. He just didn't apply it. The values that you can insert is that you'll use the plus minus 60 degrees again, and then you'll take 3 consecutive readings before and after the reading, and use that as a moving average in order to calculate the sound speed error. And if anybody got a box of whiskey, I could tell from Jørgen this he would like to implement, but he requires a box of whiskey to do it, and that will give a better precision of the calculations. He's using least square adjustments in order to figure this out. The deviation from the orthogonal is related to the direction of the cross line compared to the general survey lines, and I've set it to 20, which says or indicates that I won't tolerate anything beyond 70 degrees compared to the vertical or perpendicular to the general survey lines. So if I have crossings that'll come up in a direction like this at 45 degrees, it won't be accepted. So this is just to show the neighbor line, and you'll see it's the same indication. We have some problems here. And I just noted what is the most likely reason that the error increases towards the middle of the survey line. And the reason for that is that the compilation of the data, we've only used one profile up here and one down here. Richard has actually measured the profile here, but he didn't use it in the compilation. So he's not finished with the survey, so he can go back to the office and do it afterwards. So, but it's pretty good proof that Richard did the right thing. He actually did go out and measure the profile at that spot. So the program that we're using for this sound speed, what should we call it, verification, whether we should take a new profile, whether we could use the one at the end of the survey lines, gives also some different results. It'll give you a posteriori error estimation of a survey area. The area that we've been looking at is this area over here, and it's actually off Bornholm, and it was a bad weather area where Richard went in from time to time in order to fill out time instead of sitting down drinking beer or whatever he is doing when he's not surveying. This actually gave us a pretty good coverage on the, you can almost imagine Bornholm coming down here, and it's stretching out in this direction. And this area actually is about, in total, a fortnight of survey days. Is that right, Richard? Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I took part of in this down here, and I'll get back to that because there's something going on there. But that's also Richard's fault. So we're looking at the complete area now, not only this one as we were looking at before. And what we can see in the calculation from the a posteriori error estimation is that we'll get the statistics or a histogram of the differences in a particular survey. And this completely survey is now tiled corrected, and it's corrected for transducer offset that changes with time on this particular ship. We didn't run it as RTK, which would have given us a better result, but in that area we didn't really bother because it's more or less deep water around Bornholm, so we just continued with the DGPS. But if you look over here, you'll see a centimeter indication over here. Our largest area is 17 centimeters, and you can see the percentage. And if you remember from the IHO recommendations, you know they're talking about the 95% probability. And if you go down to 95% probability, we are in the order of a 10 centimeter error on this calculation. What is a little bit more scary is that we have some huge sound speed errors. That is caused by a couple of things. One of the things is that there's a couple of profiles that hadn't been applied, and the other one is that we're running a DGPS, so this algorithm will fail a little bit when you're surveying on slopes, because you're now depending on very high accuracy when you're comparing the two surfaces from the cross line and the general survey line. So it's not only errors, it's also an indication of you could have done a better job running RTK. So this is actually, I started up with Richard and did the inner part. Actually, it's inside this line that he has done. And he started filling out this part and going on in this direction. And you'll see it's rather big figures over here. It's 9 meters a second. And that's partly because this area is a very steep slope coming down towards the Baltic Sea from Bornholm. And because, again, he did actually take, I couldn't get it presented on this slide, but he actually did take a profile right at this spot, but he didn't apply it. So what have we learned so far is that from the next season, Søren has promised me, Søren from our Naval Material Command, that we are in the state of buying or have bought an underway SV400, which is a drop system, so we don't have to stop the survey while we're doing the CTD casts or the SV casts, and that could be done on the go, which means that we don't have to stop and waste 10-15 minutes every time we're doing a cast. And we're really looking forward to that. This software also gives us an opportunity to actually see where do we need to take a profile, because we have figured, if we look at the previous surveys, we can see that we have taken way too many profiles, and we have not taken them in the right location. But now it gives us an opportunity to point out the locations where we actually should pay attention and take the profiles. So the conclusion is the line planning tool, that will help the surveyor to be more efficient. Time is money, less time spent during the data collection, and we have less overlapping areas, which means that we've got a more equal spacing of soundings on the seafloor. And the online sound speed analysis will help the surveyor to decide where it's necessary to take the new profile, and when it is and where it should be placed. And we have the opportunity of having an a posteriori, it's a very hard word, error estimation at the same time. So yes, we can fulfill the ISO recommendation, first order with DGPS and tidal correction in the area of Bornholm. And this was actually what I planned to say. One last thing is, this guy, he might look a bit old, he's 71 now. He promised last year that he will stay until the age of 84. We don't know whether that's true, but his mind is still very sharp, and his maths are very at the higher end. And if you got any questions, don't hesitate contacting him. Got his email address down here, or you can look the paper up concerning the sound speed error verification tool, not the tool itself, but the algorithms behind it in the International Hydrographic Review 2010 version 4. Thank you.